Hello again. Today I bring you an episode inspired by a conversation I saw on Tumblr that just spiraled off into its own script. Specifically about how Ren and Nora at first glance embody certain classic character archetypes, but over time are revealed to be extremely subversive. Because characters having depth is one thing, but it's entirely another for them to actually be commentaries on their own character trope. To kick us off, on the surface Ren seems very much like the classic stoic and emotionless cool anime pretty boy, or otherwise perceived to be extremely serene and calm. Sure, he had his moments of dorkiness, usually brought on by his red-only, blue-only relationship with Nora, but that is by no means the depth of his character. The fact of the matter, though, is that view of Ren was established when he was at Beacon, i.e. a point in his life when nothing terribly disruptive was going on, and it was easy for him to go with the flow, so to speak. We see chips of the facade when things start coming untethered, however. Sometimes it's just a flash of terror, like in his fight with the King Taijitu, or a reckless disregard for his own well-being, as seen in Volume 3, but when it truly started coming to the forefront was in Volume 4. This is when we see Ren with a few safety nets back against the wall, confronted with things that hurt him, and it only goes harder from there. The less control he has over the situation, the more perceived danger and chaos there is, the more Ren's calm facade peels away to reveal a boiling cocktail of emotional problems that he tries to suppress rather than deal with. Unsurprisingly, forcing oneself to be stoic and repressing your feelings is naturally a good thing and causes anger, bubbling resentment, and tends to capsize into full-on yelling and fighting and stabbing when things don't go your way. He's been making a turn in Volume 8, but this is being done not by his stoic facade becoming his natural disposition, but by him actually becoming more in tune with his own emotions and others' emotions and expressing them more freely. Now we move on to Nora. Introduced as a mix of comic relief, classic manic pixie dream girl, the sort of those two guys trope when it came to Ren, Nora's way deeper than first advertised and much angrier. I love her for that. But I digress. We actually start seeing some of Nora's depth more clearly than Ren's, with her usually showing far better emotional insight than anyone on the team during Beacon. Of course, her frustration at Pyrrha and John's antics is somewhat hypocritical given her and Ren's relationship at that stage, but still. Emotional intelligence and surprisingly calm under traumatic fire, Nora has had a sharp and mature grasp of the situation beneath her cheery exterior, but that is easy to miss because of said exterior. We of course saw flashes of Nora's anger, both in her aggressive fighting style and more comedic scenes in past volumes, but RT is quite happy to use scenes like that and build depth onto them later. Or more, reveal the depth to them, such as Crow's alcoholism, for example. It's a joke when first introduced, but as the situation deteriorates, it's shown for the deeply unhealthy and damaging coping mechanism that it is. But back to Nora in V7 and 8 is when all the layers start being torn back, from the insecurity in her relationship with Ren and hasty efforts to make headway, to her empathic and visceral anger on behalf of the forgotten people of Mantle. And Nora finally coming into her head with her own narrative pigeonholed as a sort of extension double act with Ren, and realising thanks to their divergent goals how much of herself she's poured into being a comedic accessory rather than her own person or character, which culminated in the very mature decision to not enter a relationship with Ren just because he was finally ready, because she needs to sort herself out first. Shows have of course given characters like these depth in the past, but rarely do I think they have ever made the characters themselves essentially commentaries on their own existence and tropes, or looked into the emotional implications of existing in such roles and using such coping mechanisms from both personal and narrative standpoints, which I think is neat. That's all for now, but if you want to support my work, get sneak previews, see or commission 3D art, or otherwise help me with my finances, please hit up my Ko-fi or Patreon. Thanks for stopping by.